you hear me? Oh, he can't see me. Shangbo, you can't see me, but can you hear me? Give me a nod. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to be giving you a warning in about 1 minute. We're going to get started, okay? You're going to be the first person to speak. So you're going to be speaking pretty soon, but I'll give you the verbal time to speak. Dwayne's already got everything set up. I'll let you know, but it's happening pretty quick, okay? Dwayne, let me know when you're ready. Okay.
Please note, the meeting is being recorded.
We're good? Hey, can everybody hear me? Hello, check. Everybody hear me? Hello. Can I get everybody's attention, please? Hello. Can you guys hear me in the back? I know it's pretty loud. Colleen, can you hear me in the back? Cool. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. Tonight is the USG's presidential debate between Shangbo Wang and Divya Agrawal. Before I get into the debate, I just have a couple announcements to make. The elections are this Thursday and Friday. We're going to send out an email probably 8 a.m. on Thursday, and it'll open it up. You can look at who are the candidates and letters of intent. That is usg.case.edu. So if you guys want to see who else are candidates besides the presidents, please look there. Also, I guess without further ado, we'll just get right into this. How it's going to be structured is we're going to give each of the candidates 5 minutes to address. Wow, sorry, I'm getting an echo effect. To address themselves, they can say hello and say kind of whatever they want. So without any further ado, come on up, Divya Agrawal and Shangbo. We're going to start with you, Shangbo. So I think they're going to switch the audio over to you, but you have 5 minutes as soon as Dwayne puts you on. Okay, Shangbo, it's live.
All right. Good?
Yep, your 5 minutes starts whenever you start, right now.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here to video conference all the way from Denmark. I'm really happy to see everyone. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Shangbo Wang, Jr., double majoring in political science and economics. I have served in USG for 3 years now. I was the Vice President of Academic Affairs. My experience in USG can be described as pioneer leadership. I set out to tackle issues that no one else before me has dealt with before. During my vice presidency, we were the first to expand and improve study abroad programs. Not only did we improve those procedures, we also increased research opportunities abroad and co-op opportunities abroad. Right before I left for Denmark, I passed a resolution on addressing SAGEs. I had the categorical requirements for SAGEs relaxed, so it makes it much easier for students to take their course after their first-year seminar. Among my other accomplishments are mandating faculty job description to include advising, so they have to care about your career in addition to their research and teaching. So I believe there are two dimensions to the job of USG president. One is to represent the students, and the second is to be a leader in USG internally. First and foremost, I want to improve outreach to students. I want to directly communicate with students on what USG is doing and directly receive student feedback on USG actions. This would prevent future miscommunications, such as the $48,000 in rollover funding last semester. This problem is a result of miscommunication from USG and the processes and the distribution of student group funding. I also believe USG needs to continue to help enhance students' collegiate career, as I mentioned in my letter of intent. This is the reason why every student came to CASE. We came here for our future. That is why I want to reach out to alumni and donors to invest in students and creating career opportunities and scholarships for our students. Under my leadership, I plan to emphasize teamwork in USG. I want to work with my VPs to help them pursue their agenda. I want to encourage representatives to take more of an active role in undergraduate student government. And more importantly, I want to emphasize that you don't need an exec position to make big changes. The president should be an energy of the assembly that encourages cooperation and production from members by being a positive influence. And I think I could be that positive influence. Thank you.
Thank you, Shangbo. Divya, give me 1 second. Okay, Divya, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Keith. Good evening, everyone. My name is Divya Agarwal, and I'm a third-year nutrition major from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. During my time here at CASE, I have been an active student leader and member of the campus community. Additionally, I have made a conscious effort to be involved in projects meant to improve the university and student experience. However, for a student, there is only one organization on campus that can best facilitate such involvement and encourage students to make improvements to this university. That organization is USG. And as a result, because I value involvement, because I value the state of this institution and the welfare and success of my fellow students, the majority of my non-academic career has been spent with the undergraduate student government, and I have valued every moment of it. I believe I am qualified for the position of president of USG for 3 reasons. First, I have held 3 positions in USG, all of which have ultimately given me experience, exposure, and a deep understanding of the most important aspects involved in running this organization. USG is the sole representative and legislative body on campus, and I have dealt extensively with these areas in my 3 years in the organization. As a first-year representative for Raymond House, I learned what it means to represent your constituency. I was an active member of the General Assembly, reporting the issues and concerns first-year students had each week. As a sophomore, I held the executive position of parliamentarian, where I handled all USG legislation from the brainstorming process to the editing and the submission of resolutions to administrators. I was also the chief judicial officer of USG, where I had to lead a group of students in editing the USG Constitution and bylaws. Currently, I serve as the second in command on the USG Executive Board, the Vice President of Student Life. In this position, I have been able to develop a strong relationship with several campus administrators and staff from a myriad of departments and services. I also lead my own committee in campus improvement initiatives and was able to have a much more significant role on the USG Exec Board. I feel from these 3 positions that I have tapped into all the most important parts of this organization, and because of that, I know I can lead USG as president with confidence. I also believe that I'm qualified for the position of president because of my experience outside the organization. As I have served in leadership positions in USG-recognized student groups, I understand the importance of USG having a good external relationship with its organizations. If I were elected to president, one of my goals would be to strengthen our relationship with our student groups. Having been a student group treasurer, I have gone through the mass funding process and have realized that having more than just USG's financial support would better help student groups in carrying out their planned programming and using the money they've been given. As president, I would work to provide the means and the resources that student groups could use to get their events off the ground. I would like student groups to not be hesitant in asking us for our help, and I would like USG to have more responsibility to its student groups besides granting recognition and money. Lastly, I believe that I am most qualified for the position of president because of my ability to connect with students. Continuously throughout my college experience, whether it be in USG, the Greek community, student organizations, or as an orientation leader, I have made an effort to interact with my fellow students, and I strive to help them shape and enrich their college experience so that they may enjoy and have a fulfilling time here. For as long as I have been in USG, I constantly find myself putting USG business in front of my other commitments, and I realize it because I truly love being in this position and getting the opportunity to help my peers on a daily basis. From this, I feel I can say that I truly live out and exemplify our organization's motto, USG Students First. I think I have a great relationship with students because I take the time to follow up with them and let them know that I'm working for them and that their concerns matter. Within USG, I feel that I have a strong connection with my fellow board members and with my committee. And I feel that great asset that I would bring to the position of president is my ability to motivate and help students find their potential, as well as help them to become the student leaders that will sustain this organization into the future. Fellow students, I understand this organization and this university extremely well. I have great passion for USG and for Case Western Reserve, and I cherish the experiences and relationships it has given me. I would like nothing more than to give back in the form of dependable and compassionate leadership. I hope that you find me the most capable candidate for the presidency, and I hope that I can garner your support and vote in this election. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, could you guys still hear me in the back? Everything's clear? You guys could hear Divya? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. We're going to now get into the questions and answers. The way we're going to phrase it is I'm going to start out with a question. I've got a list of questions directed to both candidates. I'm going to start out with asking them one of these questions. They're going to have, I'm going to give them to start 1 minute to respond to these questions. And then we're going to open it up to you guys. If you guys have a question, please raise your hand. The way we're going to have it done is Mint-Tree. If you guys raise your hand, you have a question, Mint-Tree is going to come around just to make sure that it's professional. We don't want any questions that are derogatory or racist or anything like that. So Mint-Tree is going to come around to verify the questions are legit, and then I'll come to you and you can ask your question. When you ask your question, it could be either to both candidates. I'm going to ask you at first to address to one of the candidates. Afterwards, I'll ask you if you want to address it to the other candidate as well. You don't have to address it to both. You could just address it to one if you'd like. Okay? So right now, I just want to just to see, does anybody have any questions right now? Mint-Tree is going to come around. I just want to see a preliminary list of hands.
It's down. It's in your
One
face.
person. Okay, we're going to start it out with a question. Divya, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
You have 1 minute to respond.
All right.
If you could only accomplish one goal during your time as USG president, what would it be and why?
All right. As I mentioned before, I think our relationship with student groups is extremely important. Shengbo mentioned how we had a $48,000 rollover this year, and that can be attributed to the fact that student groups were not able to use their money. I hope to help student groups use the money that they were allotted because they had really good ideas for programs that they wanted to hold this year. And for some reason, whatever reason, whether they couldn't find a space, whether they couldn't find a caterer, they couldn't hold their programs. So the reason I want to help student organizations beyond mass funding is that so they can get those programs off the ground. I don't want these excellent ideas to, enrich our campus with this programming to kind of go to waste. So one thing I hope to accomplish this year, if I were to be elected president, is to really strengthen our relationships with student groups.
Thank you. Shengbo, I will repeat the question. If you could only accomplish one goal during your time as USG president, what would it be and why?
The one goal I want to accomplish during my term as USG president would definitely be about student scholarship and financial aid. We are currently ranked among one of the highest universities in undergraduate debt, and I think that's really unacceptable. We've all invested a lot here for our future, time, effort, and energy. So I think making it easier, making our education much more affordable, increasing the better quality of it, I think it can really benefit everyone here. It's why we're all here, for our careers. So that would be my one goal.
Okay, thank you. Is there a question? Do you want to read it?
No.
Okay. Who's it directed to? Okay, Shengbo, we're going to start with you. What is your greatest weakness that may affect your presidency?
I think being a vice president, I think Divya will also know this firsthand, is that being in an executive position, sometimes the stress can really get to you, and sometimes it could every once in a while tamper with your judgment. But that has not happened during my time as vice president. I've always managed to keep my cool, always make the best decision, looking at all angles. But I think the stress sometimes does get to you every once in a while, but that's not going to tamper with me. I work well under pressure.
Divya, what is your greatest weakness that may affect your presidency?
I think my greatest weakness might be really wanting to kind of tap into the roles of the vice president, as Shengbo mentioned. There's a lot to do as vice president because I love USG so much and because I love working on campus initiatives. The one thing with the USG president is you don't get to directly work on the initiatives, the everyday issues. You kind of have to oversee them. So I feel like my only weakness would be maybe unable to kind of take on, prevent myself from taking on more than I should. But I think the way I can remedy that is really have much confidence in my exec board, have much confidence in my VPs, and really tell myself that I know that they can do this and I just have to be there if something goes wrong or if they need my help.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions out here? Okay, we got one question in the back. Any other questions? Just raise your hand, I just want to see. Okay, I'm going to go here. We're going to start with Divya this time. What makes you the most qualified to be president?
So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I have held 3 very different positions in USG. I've held the position of representative, parliamentarian, and vice president of student life. And I feel like from these positions, I have been able to get really excellent experience in terms of everything related to USG, everything related to the university. For one thing, as parliamentarian, I have a really, really good sense of the rules of this organization, the Constitution and bylaws. I had to know those in the back of my hand. I had to edit them myself along with a judicial board. So I know the rules, I know how to represent, I know how to lead because I was the vice president of student life. I am the vice president of student life. So I feel I know the 3 core things that are important to the presidency. And
10 seconds.
Thank you. Because I handle issues related to the whole campus as vice president of student life, I feel I'm very well of the university issues as well.
Okay. Shangbo, what makes you the most qualified to be president?
Well, the USG president is a very demanding job with very high expectations from students, from administrators, but for me, it's not about meeting those expectations, it's about exceeding those expectations. You gotta go above and beyond, and I have consistently proven myself on that account during my vice presidential tenure. When I was Vice President of Academic Affairs, my responsibility was to represent students in the academic forum, but I went above and beyond that. Academic Affairs was not only a student advocate, but it was also a student resource. My representatives and I were very well versed in university academic policies and procedures and curriculum, so students always came to us if they had a question with anything like dealing with financial aid, changing majors, credit hours. If they had any questions, they always contacted us. So we were the first point that they were able to reach out to. And second of all, like I mentioned with study abroad, the administrators were looking to improve the procedures of study abroad, but my committee and I, we went above and beyond once again. Why stop at just like procedures? Why don't we include other things such as co-op abroad and research abroad, so that makes it much better for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Shangbo. Do we have a question here? Okay. Say it.
What's that?
Say what candidate you want to say the question.
Oh, this is to both of them. So I believe you guys both mentioned that you wanted to reach out to student groups more. I was just wondering, what is one way that you'll do that that is not already happening? So.
Okay, we're going to start that. What is it, Divya's turn, I believe? Yes. So, Divya, did you get that question? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so one way I thought about reaching out to student groups is, first of all, throughout the semester, emailing them, asking them via Collegiate Link, how are things going? You have a program coming up. Do you need any help with that? And if they're okay, they're okay. But if they need help, we have a lot of representatives in USG. And so maybe assigning that student group one representative to really help them. Some student groups don't have enough manpower and they can't get everything done. So have that representative help them out with their program. Have them kind of also report back to us saying, like, you know, this student group needs this. Can we help them out this way? And as a result, that representative will also get great experience and exposure in planning events and in communicating with their fellow students. So I think assigning representatives and checking in with the student groups often throughout the semester is a couple of great ways that we can really reach out to our groups.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to repeat the question to Shangbo?
Sure. Shangbo, same question. You mentioned that you want to reach out to student groups. How are you going to do that?
Well, in addition to all sorts of electronic means of reaching out to students, whether it's Facebook, Collegiate Link, or email, I personally think that the best way that, you know, anyone hears of events is through word of mouth, honestly. So I will work with my representative and exec board to have this goal in mind that, you know, when you're out there, you got to make sure and pay attention to the students, you know, listen to any sort of concerns that they have, listen to any sort of problems that they have, and just report it back to General Assembly or committee meetings. And that can be very helpful, you know, for us to get direct feedback from the students. So I think having representatives out in the field is really important. And I also want to make USG's presence known on campus so that you guys can also talk to us directly. So like holding barbecues, holding forums, I think those are great ways, you know,
10
for
seconds.
students to contact us directly. Yeah, thank you.
This question is for Divya. I know a lot of the issues that you've been dealing with as Student Life VP have been bilateral almost with administrators. You just talk to them and figure out a best case scenario sort of thing. As president, you'll be dealing a lot with larger university-wide level questions and committees. So faculty members, administrators, all working in unison. And a lot of these problems necessarily don't get done, you know, within the first month or even year. How do you think you'll deal with that type of thing and I guess the frustration that goes along with it?
Sure, thank you for that question. I currently serve on many exterior non-USD related committees. That I'm currently on the Temple renovation project, and that project unfortunately, well, hasn't come to a standstill, but I know students haven't gotten to hear a lot about it. I'm also on the Compass Committee, which is for master planning and student space, where we use this committee to get that kind of information out to students. So I can understand the frustration that there might be when you want to tell students about the Temple, but you can't because there's no updates. So I think one way to approach that, instead of getting frustrated, just keep on trying to find information. Keep on going to those administrators. If they don't know, find another one and find more information. So taking my own initiative, asking my committee members to take their own initiative to get the information for our students.
Okay, thank you, Divya. Do you want to give that question to Shengbo? Yep, Shengbo, do you understand the question? Do you need it repeated?
Well, if I understand it correctly, I think the question is about you know, how to work with top level university issues that requires a lot of time. Being Vice President of Academic Affairs and serving on various working groups, International Planning Committee, I've learned the bureaucracy of the university, and that it's a really deep bureaucracy, and for anything to get done, it has to go through a lot of decision makers. So I've learned the patience to deal with that kind of issue, but I think honestly the best approach to, you know, deal with this kind of issue is coalition building, you know, gathering the support of faculty, administrators, and students. And when you have like everyone on the same page, you know, I think it'll move much better, much faster for whatever that we need to accomplish. So I think strength in numbers definitely help, and patience. Thank you.
This question is for both candidates. I want to know how you would rate the current effectiveness of the caucus system and what changes you think would need to be implemented. Shengbo first.
I think that the caucus system, I've seen a lot of improvements in the caucus. When I was Vice President of Academic Affairs, I worked with the Engineering Caucus to work on legislation on post-break exams. And I've also seen a lot of great improvements from the College of Arts and Sciences and relations with Dean Cyrus Taylor. So I think there's a lot of potential to be tapped in for the caucuses. I think a key factor in having that is having a strong caucus speaker. So having a strong leader will definitely help the caucus, and also I want to work with the speaker to, you know, tap into this potential for the caucuses, because they know each school the best and their constituents' interests. So we definitely need to utilize the caucuses much more. Thank you.
Okay, so I would say that I'm very impressed with the caucuses this year. I know we had some difficulty last year, especially with some of the bigger caucuses getting everybody to meet, but I've seen a lot of cooperation. This year, I've seen great improvement. Every caucus has been so active in trying to get feedback about their college, about their school. Individuals within caucuses are taking on their own initiatives to improve. At least every college, every caucus has met with a dean, and that improves our relationship with administrators, and it really tells administrators that we care, and they put us, USG, in a higher light as a result of that. So as always, there can be improvement. I think speakers do keep cohesiveness within a group, and I think that we should have continuously have the exec board check in with the caucuses to make sure that they need anything and to make sure things are running smoothly.
Is there any other questions out here? You've got another question? Mintry, she's got another question as well. So, to what candidate?
To both. Hi, this is to both candidates. I guess Divya will be first. So we all are well aware that there's a $48,000 rollover, and from just talking with Colleen, I guess that's from unused USG allocated funds to student organizations. As an ex-leader of a student organization myself, I know that many groups don't actually use their money until maybe the week before or a day before an event. So I guess in what way would you as a leader prevent such massive rollovers from happening and make sure that these funds, these dollars paid by all of us students get used?
So I mentioned this in my opening remarks and my letter of intent. I think you're absolutely right. The main reason that we have a rollover is because student groups are not able to use their money for the programming. So I think one way we can kind of prevent that is check in with the organization maybe a couple of weeks before an event that they might be having and ask them, how are things going? Are you up to speed? Are you ready for this event? And if they haven't started it yet, ask them why. Why haven't you started the planning for this huge event that we gave you a lot of money for, and maybe help them get started. That's the main reason why we see these rollovers is, like you said, they just don't, either they don't use it at all for their programs or they do it too late and they aren't able to use all of it. So checking in with the organizations, asking them if their programming is, if they're ready to do their programming. And I think we can also alter the way we give money in the first place. Checking the history of organizations. Do they use their money in the past? Do they have a good history of using what we give them, or do they always have a rollover?
5 seconds.
So after we look at that, then maybe our mass funding process will, be better and we will have less rollover.
Okay, Shangbo, questions to you as well.
All right, can you repeat that really quick?
I'll be more brief this time, I guess. How would you prevent large rollovers like the one we currently have from happening?
All right, just wanted to make sure I fully understood you. Well, what's done's been done. What we need to do is to move forward. So one of the things we can do is work with student groups, talk to them. It's all right, what was, out of your control? What was in your control? How can we, get you to spend that money? Because these are student activity fees paid directly out of the student's pocket. We need to encourage the student groups to, do whatever they can to spend that money the most efficient way as possible. But with that in mind, it's just kind of what Divya said. We need to establish that good working relationship with student groups and see how we can move forward to prevent this kind of, future rollover. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Shangbo.
Okay, I actually have a question for Shangbo, but Divya, feel free to also comment on this. Shangbo, you had mentioned in your opening remarks that you wanted to instill a greater level of cooperative work amongst the USG representatives and vice presidents. How do you plan to do this?
Okay, I think I've done this before. Like I said earlier, I've kind of touched based upon some of the internal cooperation of undergraduate student government. As I mentioned, when I was Vice President of Academic Affairs, I worked with the Engineering Caucus in drafting a legislation that was academically related. It was about not having any exams 3 days, at least 3 days after any sort of major breaks. And I think the caucuses can definitely work together because there are a lot of overlapping issues on campus. For example, internationalization, there are academic areas, and there are also student life areas. So the committees can definitely work together. So there are a lot of policy issues where I see, a committee and a caucus can work together, or the caucuses can always collaborate as well. And then there are also a lot of external organizations that USG can cooperate with as
5
well.
seconds.
I regularly work with the Academic Integrity Board, so there are a lot of rooms for cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shangbo. Divya, are you going to take this question?
Please.
Okay.
Okay, so under my administration as parliamentarian, we did put into our constitution bylaws that caucuses could write legislation. And so as a result of that change that was made when I was parliamentarian, we have seen more caucuses writing resolutions. We put more than one caucus on a resolution. So that's where that cooperation has started. I think just kind of encouraging it more would be a way to do that. All the caucuses are always aware of what they're doing. We do updates every week. Every caucus has an update. I think maybe it's up to the exec board sometimes to kind of point out to a caucus or a speaker if they're not aware that, hey, maybe you can collaborate on this too. So we have the means. It's all instilled in our structure. We just need to emphasize it more.
Thank you, Divya. Next question is from somebody in the audience. This is for Shangbo. Having been abroad for a semester and not on campus, how do you plan to bridge the disconnect between yourself and the student body?
Okay, I don't think a few thousand miles is going to keep me away from what's going on campus. I still have a lot of email contacts. A lot of administrators still email me regularly on the initiatives that I've worked with them in the past. I'm still on the mailing list for undergraduate student government and my committee, and I regularly talk to representatives, my friends at home, about various issues. Everything that I've worked on, I've passed on to them. If they have any questions, they were always able to contact me. So I'm definitely not out of touch as far as what's going on campus. As you can see, I was clearly aware of the $48,000 rollover funding. And everything else that's like new re-election, a new vice president PR that occurred in USG. So I will always be aware of what's going on around campus. There's not a question. It's not going to ruin my dedication if I'm like overseas. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Shangbo. Next question is from Mr. Hale. Okay.
I'll direct this to Divya first, but if you could just tell us, what are your long-term goals for the university, and how will being president help you accomplish those?
All right. So one of my main goals is for improvement in the university would be retention of students. This year we saw a really impressive increase in our applicants numbers and our admissions numbers. However, we're still ranked very high in low retention. A lot of my friends that I had in freshman year, they're gone. About probably 10 students that I know that I had freshman year, they're gone for various reasons. It could be financial aid. It could be that they're really not happy with Case Western. I'd much rather have it be the first one, financial aid. I don't want to hear that someone is not happy with being here, because I have enjoyed my experience to the fullest. So one thing I would be able to do as president is hopefully work up with higher administration, such as Rick Bischoff, who is the VP for our enrollment and admissions, and ask him, what can we do? How can we make ourselves look more lucrative to students that are currently here? Give them a reason to stay, because this is a great institution, and I want everyone to leave with a Case Western diploma.
Okay, thank you, Divya. Shangbo, actually, would you like to send that to Shangbo, or? Yeah. Okay, Shangbo, do you want the question repeated, or are you good?
I think I'm good. One of my long-term goals in my letter of intent is for the USG president to work with alumni, because the USG president has that opportunity more so than any other student, whether it's meeting board of trustees or just like a lot of former alumni donors. And for me, I want them to invest in students. So part of President Snyder's capital campaigns to raise money for students' financial aid and scholarship. I want to be a part of that process, because one of the biggest reasons for retention is like a loss of scholarship or decrease in financial aid. And we have such a great educational institution here at Case Western. I don't want students to miss out on that simply because of financial reason. That's unacceptable. So I want to do whatever I can to foster that kind of financial opportunity for student as USG president. And that money should not be a factor for you to stay here at Case Western Reserve University. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shangbo. Next question's from Ali Pulaski.
So I know every year the president of USG picks kind of a catchphrase to define their moment leading the student government. In the past we've had transparency, and this year we've had sustainability. And I'm wondering if, for both candidates, if you have kind of in mind what your overarching goal is for the next year in USG. So
Shangbo, go ahead.
So like I said, it's about exceeding expectations because USG, we have truly a bunch of wonderful individuals with a lot of ideas and who don't sit back and who always takes the first step in taking initiatives. So I feel that we can definitely do a lot. I understand a lot's expected of us, but we can always think outside of the box and we can accomplish more. We can take advantage of a problem and create much more benefits for the students. So I think it's about exceeding those expectations that people have for undergraduate student government.
Okay, Divya?
My catchphrase would probably be dependable leadership. I want to give student groups and students the image, the impression that you can count on us, that we're there for you, that we're not some organization that only doles out money or that kind of passes resolutions and no one really knows what they're about. I want them to come ask us questions and I want us to go to them. I want to establish a relationship between us and our student body that they can count on us, that we're here, we're on the same team, that we're working for them, and that they shouldn't have any hesitation to come to us to ask for anything, and that when they do ask for help, that we will address their concerns and we will work to accomplish what, to do whatever possible to make their college experience the best it can be.
Thanks, Divya. Next question from Kevin Moeller.
I have a separate question for each candidate. So I believe we're starting with Divya. What do you see as the biggest academic concern next year, and how do you plan to solve it?
So USG currently this year, we worked quite a bit on the Academic Affairs Committee worked quite a bit on SAGES and advising, doing very impressive work, and was just about to get started on TAs, evaluation, and in labs and whatnot. And I think that's a huge area that we need to focus on next year is the laboratories, classes, and the teaching assistants, which I've heard to be extremely ineffective. Students are not really getting what they want, they need to out of these laboratories. They find that it's a waste of time, and they find that the people teaching them are not knowledgeable enough. This shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't have to spend a 3-hour lab and not get anything out of it, have your setups not work. That doesn't make sense. So I would hope that there'd be improvement in that area.
Shangbo, do you want to have a do you want to respond on that as well?
I have a separate question.
Actually, being the Vice President of Academic Affairs, even though a lot was accomplished, there are still a lot of things that needs to be done. Study abroad, even though we've increased the initiatives, increased programs, and, have brand new ideas, we need to do a better job in implementing those. We need to find newer programs, such as multinational programs. We need to give everyone a chance to study abroad, not just people in College of Arts and Sciences, but more available to people in engineering as well. In addition to that, SAGES is another thing we definitely need to cover. Sure, we've had the categorical requirements relaxed, but there are other things such as the capstone that needs to be addressed as well. So, I'm definitely willing to work with whoever my next Vice President of Academic Affairs is, and we'll go through all the bureaucracy, and we're gonna work for the students' best interests. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to ask a question. Does anybody have any questions? You can still flag down Mint-Tree. We're going to actually cut it to 45-second responses so we get more questions in before we have to leave. So it's going to now be 45 seconds. Kevin's going to finish your question. That's going to be directed to Shangbo.
So Shangbo, shifting gears now, what do you see as the biggest student life issue coming up next year, and how do you plan to solve it?
Well, right before I left, my own laptop was stolen out of the USG office, and during last semester there were a lot of bank robberies, and then also some students were mugged right outside of their campus, right outside of their dorm. So one of the biggest issues I see next year for student life is probably campus security. How can we, do a better job that, students don't, get mugged like in 5 in the afternoon in front of their own dorm. So that's a very key issue that we see. And also the Provost has another student life initiative, and that's internationalization. How do we, better integrate international students? And I've been part of the international orientation. I think we can definitely build upon that,
Thank you, Shangbo. Thank you.
So this should take like 2 seconds to answer.
Well, actually, hold on 1 second. Divya, do you want to respond on the student life issue for next year? On that last question?
I'll take this. I've been doing student life all year.
Okay.
I can take this one.
All right. This is to both of you. Divya, I guess you can go first. If you can sum up in one sentence or less the way in which you lead, what would that be?
Okay. I would say that I lead honestly and compassionately. One more elaboration, that's it. Okay.
Shangbo, one sentence or less.
One word, teamwork.
Thank you. Skylar.
This is a question for Shangbo. I just wanted to know your position on international student financial aid. Do you feel that, do you support it, number one? Do you feel that students should all be lumped into the same pool, and so it doesn't matter if you're international or domestic, or do you feel there should be separate pools?
Okay. I think much more research needs to be done on that issue. I want to emphasize that no one's getting their money taken away. That is not going to be the case. We need to do more research to see how, like, some of the other schools that's been mentioned in the Observer of how they provide international students with their financial aid. We're going to see if that's doable. So I think, first of all, more research needs to be done. I think, and like I said before, you know, finances should not be a reason to keep you away from Case Western Reserve University.
Divya, would you like to respond?
Yeah, sure. I think that it is possible. It should be possible for students to get, international students to get financial aid. There are quite a few international students on this campus, and they make a great contribution to our campus. However, it should be done in a way that does not affect our students now. As Shangbo said, there's probably a lot more research that needs to be done. There's a lot more, we need to look into this a lot more and find our different possibilities that we can, of how we can make it so that everybody wins. That the students who are here now are not affected, that everything scholarship related stays the way it is, but we can also include international students into the pool of people who can be eligible.
Thank you. I've got you said that was the last question. I've got one question I'm going to give to both candidates. It's actually for everybody, but this is the last question. Why do you think you're the best candidate? Why are you the best candidate? I'm going to start with Shangbo.
I want to emphasize the fact that that I exceed expectations. I don't just do what I'm supposed to do. I do more than that. And so I don't want to have to repeat, you know, what I've said before. Basically, the students can always count on me to come through for them. I'm there for them. They can always come to me with any questions or concerns. And I will always turn those concerns into a greater benefit that'll benefit everyone on campus, I think. So you can always count on me to give you everything, and after that, I will always give more. So that's how I define my leadership style, productivity.
Thank you, Shangbo.
I feel I'm the best candidate for this position because my experience and my exposure to everything related to USG, to the university, is a testament to the fact that I'm able to handle everything, that I can lead this organization confidently, that I won't be learning things while I'm in this position. I can jump right on it and I will be ready to tackle it. Additionally, I answer to students. If they have a concern, I go to them. I email them, I follow up with them. I go to the root cause of the problem and I make sure that it is addressed. Whether it be a problem within USG, with a person, with a representative who's having a personal issue, I will direct them, and I'll direct them compassionately.
Okay, thank you so much. That's going to wrap up our debate for tonight. I'm sure the candidates will stay after for a couple minutes just to answer any last questions. But thank you so much, and take care.